Hi everyone! Even if you have read a huge number of books and watched hundreds of scientific films, it's impossible to learn absolutely everything about our world.
The fuck?
Even famous scientists are experts only in one area. That's why we try to find incredible things that can surprise or even really shock you. You will see some of today's videos for the first time in your life, so we recommend you to watch the video till the end. Let's get it on. Extreme cold. Extreme cold is a challenge for anyone who finds themselves in such circumstances. Objects don't behave as they usually do though. Raw eggs freeze instantly, cars get covered with an ice crust every time it rains, and extinguishing a fire at a temperature of -30°C is something unimaginable. Frozen waterfalls, frosty eyelashes, but especially abnormal weather is felt at Mount Washington Observatory. Not only is it terribly cold here, but also the wind blows almost constantly. To handle it, the buildings on the top are built using special technology, and some objects are chained to the mountain. Extreme natural conditions make it almost impossible to use the equipment without human intervention, so there are always researchers here, and they have their own way of having fun, even with a wind blowing at 136 km/h. Ice musical instruments. Artist and sculptor Tim Linhart moved from Colorado to Sweden to create ice instruments with an unusual, unique sound. Tim spent more than 30 years doing ice sculptures before he started his music career. At some point, he had the idea of combining seemingly incompatible things: ice, sculpture, and music. This is how the first musical instruments made from ice appeared, and the project that Tim calls the Ice Music was born. The sculptor creates ice instruments right in the backyard of his house in Luleå, northeast Sweden. He carves violins, violas, cellos, double basses, banjos, guitars, mandolins, xylophones, and drums, all from ice. Tim has also made larger instruments, such as an ice harp and even an ice organ. Believe it or not, but each of these instruments works properly. Creating his own ice orchestra, Tim combines white ice from snow and water with transparent ice, and the only glue it uses to join the details is water. The only parts of the instrument that are not made of ice are the wooden necks and the metal strings, and to totally impress the audience, Tim often adds colored LEDs to the instruments. Turns out to be real ice magic. Buildings without nails. In the past, making and using metal was too expensive for carpenters in Japan. Therefore, instead of using nails, carpenters of the Miyadaiku school, experts in the construction of temples and religious buildings, developed unique methods of combining pieces of wood together without any fastenings. This technique is known for its complex joints, and the fact that the buildings built by the followers of this school are among the oldest surviving buildings made of solid wood. But how can they do that? Well, it's all about the special technology of joining wooden parts. The pieces of wood are carved in such a way that they become similar to puzzle pieces, and then they're connected to each other. Maximum strength and maximum reliability for centuries. Fish skin transplant. Well, it sounds strange, but that's how scientists learned to treat burns, and not only human burns. In California, veterinarians cured 2 red-listed bears that had been burned in fires. For treatment, doctors used tilapia fish skin, which was sewn to the paws of the bears. By the way, tilapia is so far the only fish whose collagen is closest to the human skin. Now it turns out that it's also suitable for a bear. Needless to say, before using it, the fish skin is specially treated, and as a result it completely loses its specific smell. And the benefits are clear. When the bears woke up after the operation, they immediately just stood on their feet. Hockey dog. When you hear about a dog on ice, you imagine a clumsy animal falling around. But this couldn't be less true about this Labrador named Benny. Benny became the first dog in the world to learn how to skate. Coach Cheryl Del Sangro once saved the puppy from being put down in a shelter. Cheryl began to take the dog to the ice rink and noticed that the dog was very interested in running on the ice and picking up the pucks. Then, the coach ordered special skates from the local master and taught Benny to stand on them. Now he even has his own puck and stick, and Benny skillfully scores goals. Ice apples. You think there's nothing unusual about ice instruments? Then how about ice apples, created by nature itself without human intervention? For the first time, this unusual phenomenon was noticed by American Andrew Cietzema. He was trimming apple trees in the garden when he discovered really strange fruits on the branches and photographed them. Transparent ice balls in the form of apples, but empty inside. The man wanted to understand how such a thing could happen, because the apples couldn't just disappear from the ice crust. Eventually, he came to the conclusion that the weather was all to blame. After the rain, the air temperature was low enough to keep the ice crust cold, but at the same time high enough that the apples, which had already rotted, finally turned into mash. After all, the contents of the ice apples simply flowed out of the ice balls, leaving bizarre transparent decorations on the trees. Rabbit Island. Can you imagine an island inhabited by a multitude of rabbits? Such an island exists, and it's located in the Hiroshima Prefecture in Japan. It was once a secret island, and Japan removed it from the maps, but today it barely manages the flow of tourists and the hundreds of rabbits that inhabit it. Okunoshima Island, which covers an area of 0.7 square kilometers, is located in the inland sea of Japan, near the city of Takehara. During the Second World War, a chemical weapons factory operated here, but after the war the documents were all burned, the remains of the gas were destroyed, and today the island is famous for its rabbits. According to 2007 data, there were about 300 of them, and today the number has surpassed 1,000. No one knows how the rabbits ended up on the island though. According to the most popular version, these are the descendants of experimental animals, which were used to test the effects of gas during the war. Some believe that the first couple of rabbits were brought in by tourists, or they were released by school children who were here on a school trip. These wild, but at the same time quite pet animals aren't afraid of people, and that's why tourists are delighted. Life in an airplane. Some people hate traveling by plane. They're afraid or just can't stand everything related to planes. But American Bruce Campbell is the exact opposite. He loves airplanes so much that he even decided to turn a plane into a house. This decommissioned Boeing 727 stands in the middle of a forest near Portland, Oregon. Campbell bought the land for $23,000 when he was just over 20 years old. As a child, he was always attracted by the cemeteries of abandoned equipment. He dreamed of bringing an old passenger plane back to life one day, at least partially. But for more than 10 years now, the man has been living in his own Boeing. He spent about $220,000 to furnish the interior space of 100 square meters. Bruce knew he would never be able to create perfect living conditions here, but who cares when your home is an airplane? Campbell gets on board, as it should be, by the boarding ramps, takes water from the original reservoir, and washes in a homemade shower. Volcanic skiing. It would seem that any person with a developed instinct of self-preservation will stay as far away as possible from an active volcano. For example, from the Etna, which is the tallest active volcano in Europe. The last time Etna erupted was December the 24th, 2018. That is just recent, but there are real fans of extreme sports who use the black sand-covered slopes for snowboarding or skiing. Is it dangerous? Well, it goes without saying, but it's also unusual, exciting, and it gives you an adrenaline rush, which is an unparalleled luxury. Lava bread. Whatever you say, Iceland is an amazing country, where even the simplest bread can be prepared using an unusual technology. Siggy Raffenhilmarsson, for example, bakes bread using lava from nearby volcanoes, according to a recipe that's passed down from generation to generation in his family. And this isn't a joke. He buries the pot with the dough at a depth of 40 centimeters in the hot soil, and then lets the volcanic area do the work. The temperature of the soil in this region reaches 100 degrees Celsius, but Siggy waits a day for the bread to be well baked. Once ready, the unusual loaf can be served. 1,000 cats. Shelters for homeless animals usually look pretty sad, with depressed, lonely animals in cages, but not this place. California's largest stray cat shelter looks like a huge cozy home, where animals live without cages and feel as comfortable as possible. Linnea Latanzio, who founded the center 25 years ago, gave the cats her 5-bedroom home, and moved to a modest house on wheels, and it's not surprising. When 800 cats and 300 kittens live next to you, personal space can be a real challenge.
I tried for about 16 years to make it work, but it wasn't okay having 60-something in my bedroom.
The animals in this unique shelter, known as Cat House on the Kings, are watched not only by Linnea herself, but also by a staff of volunteers and 7 veterinarians. Each of the cats receives not only professional treatment, but also true care and a bunch of love. Linnea tries not only to surround the homeless animals with care, but also to find a loving family and a permanent home for each of them, as well as constantly conducting seminars on pet care with locals. Toy piano virtuoso. Can a toy piano be considered a serious musical instrument? Oh yes, if it gets into the right hands, of course. For example, the hands of Margaret Lang Tan, considered to be the queen of the toy piano. She's played on her toy pianos all over the world, including concerts at Carnegie Hall and the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Margaret believes bad instruments require better skills, and says it took her years to learn to play the toy piano beautifully. Well, all her efforts paid off. Just listen to her play. The sound of extinction. Did you know that you can hear the changes happening to our planet? For half a century now, Bernie Krauser has been recording wild soundscapes, the wind in the woods, the chirping of birds, the subtle sounds of insects. And every year, his work becomes more and more silent. Parks, nature reserves, forests and valleys are getting quieter. Some of them for a while, but some of them forever, because biological diversity is decreasing at a great speed. According to some reports, the last time something like this happened was when the dinosaurs died out. In the meantime, Bernie continues to record the sounds of our planet. Perhaps, at least in this way, we'll be able to save it for future generations.
Psst, dude, are you looking for new technologies and great gadgets? Are your thoughts focused on the future? Do you love huge vehicles and can't imagine your life without robots around you? Then visit TechZone and you'll find all this and more. The link is in the description. You interested? Great.